Hi, I'm Lester Power with American Medical Equipment. Today I'm going to be going over our negative pressure system, the Venturi Avanti. The Avanti is a little bit larger. It comes in two sizes, the Avanti and the Compact. They both operate the same way. First thing I'll go over is some of the functions on the actual pump. To turn the unit on, you simply hit the power button for a couple seconds. It'll make an audible alarm and then it comes on in a default setting of 80 millimeters of mercury continuous. These little hash lines just indicate how fully charged the battery is. We're in continuous and we're in standby. To change the millimeters of mercury, simply hit the up or down buttons and you can change the setting in increments of 5, anywhere from 40 to 200 millimeters of mercury. Typically the doc or the ordering physician is going to probably set it at 125 millimeters of mercury. So we just keep hitting our button until we reach 125 millimeters of mercury. Next button I'll point your attention to, it has a solid line and a dash line. By depressing this button we can change it from continuous. Hold it down for about 3 seconds. We hear our beep. And now we're on intermittent. All intermittent is we're going to be providing negative pressure intermittently. In the case of Venturi, it provides therapy for 7 minutes, suction for 7 minutes, no suction for 2 minutes. To change it back to continuous, simply hit the button. We hear our beep, and we're now on continuous. The Venturi is designed to automatically lock out. If this pump is running for 2 minutes, it will automatically lock out. We'll have an L appear on our screen indicating that it's locked out. And once the machine is locked out, you can no longer make any modifications. You can't change the millimeters of mercury. You can't even turn it on or off. So the first thing you would do is press the lock button for about 3 seconds. Our L will go away, and now you're free to make your changes or modifications. Next thing I'll point you to is the canister itself. To remove the canister, we have a little knob here. Simply turn it counterclockwise. Pull your canister off. You'll remove your tubing and you will put this stop over the opening. It does have a gel solidifier and you're going to dispose of it whatever your facility's protocols are. To put the new one on, there will be a piece of styrofoam right on these pins. You'll remove that piece of styrofoam. Simply put your canister back in place. Close or twist your knob and we have our canister in place. There are 4 alarms with the Venturi. First one, and the one you'll quite honestly hear the most often, is low vacuum. Second one is low battery. The battery of the Venturi lasts for about 24 hours. When you get down about 3 or 4 hours, that's when the alarm will signify or let you know that we need to probably plug it back up. Third alarm is an occlusion in the tubing. Fourth alarm is canister. When the alarm goes off for the canister, simply replace the canister as I've shown you. Next thing I'll do is do a quick little dressing change. There are hundreds of different possibilities, but what I'm going to do today is just give you a basic understanding or basic application of what you would do with a standard wound. In our kits, you're going to have your piece of foam, you're going to have your connection tubing, and you're going to have your 2 drapes. First thing I recommend is clean the wound out. Normal saline or disinfectant wound cleansing solution that you probably have access to. Once you've got the wound nice and clean, I always recommend taking skin prep around the peri wound just to protect against maceration, and plus it's also going to help ensure that we achieve a quality seal. There is no right or wrong way to apply this dressing. A lot of people have different techniques. What I'm going to show you is, and what I always recommend, is window painting. And all that really is I'm going to cut my first piece or drape into 4 strips. I'm going to place it around the peri wound without going into the wound. And what that's going to do is when I cut my foam, if I have any overlapping foam on the peri wound, it's going to protect against maceration, but plus it's also going to help me maintain that seal, which is critically important, as I'm sure many of you are aware of. So all I'm doing is simply cutting my 4 strips. This particular drape, and there's many different variations out there, but this particular drape is a 1, 2, 3 pull, and I will show you how to do that here in a second. But you want to make sure when you're cutting you follow these lines. There's lines on the drape. If you go against the lines, it can become next to impossible to correctly apply our drape. What I'm going to do is pull our first tab, or has the adhesive backing on it. Simply like that. Place our adhesive side down, close to the peri, or close to the wound, without actually going in it. Next thing I'm going to do is pull off my number 3, which is always going to be on the blue side of the tab, and then simply pull my blue off. So same thing. I'm going to pull off my 1, which has the adhesiveness to it, my 2, number 3, which is always, once again, by the blue. Simply pull my blue off. 2 more times and I will have done a window pane around the peri wound. My 1, my 2, 3, pull the blue off. Last piece, my 1, 2, 3, and my blue piece. Now that I have successfully applied my drape for protection around the wound, next thing I'm going to do is cut my piece of foam. When you cut your foam, you want to keep in the back of your mind that there will be some contraction once the suction is applied. So you want to cut it a little bit bigger than the actual wound. Not so big to where it actually impedes closure, but you don't want to cut it so small and then once the suction is applied that we have part of our wound bed exposed. If that happens, there's a good possibility that you could develop some necrotic tissue. So this is where the arts and crafts come in. So simply going to cut your foam. You want to cut your foam away from the wound. We don't want any loose fragments going into the wound bed. So you see I've made my foam piece a little bit bigger than the actual wound, but once the negative pressure is applied, you'll notice that contraction. Next thing I'm going to do is take my half of my first piece of drape, same thing, pull off my number 1, peel away my number 2, finally my number 3, and my blue tab. Now what I'm going to do is cut a hole about the center of the location of the wound, and I suggest a hole and not a slit. I've seen where what can happen if we just create a little slit is it could actually close in on itself because of the suction. So you want to make about maybe a pencil eraser's width of the hole we're going to cut. Next thing you're going to do is take our connection tubing. You're going to want to make sure the hole of our connection tubing aligns with the hole that we've just created. You're going to peel off your adhesiveness on the connection tubing. You want to keep in mind which way you want to run the tubing. We've got it aligned. And then there's a second backing that we need to remove. Once we have that removed, simply pull off your blue tabs. And we have successfully dressed this wound. Next thing we're going to do is take our connection tubing, apply it to our canister on the pump. You'll notice that there's an indentation here and a nipple here. Simply line those up, twist. I always recommend giving it a nice little tug just to make sure we have a good seating. We will take our connection tubing, our tubing from our drain, simply attach it to the Christmas tree adapter. I will now place the unit, or turn the unit on. It'll come on standby, default 80 millimeters of mercury. I'm going to go ahead and change in increments of 5 to 125 millimeters of mercury. Now that I have it 125 millimeters of mercury, continuous, simply going to take it from standby to operational mode, and to do that I simply hit the button one more time, and we should notice contraction. And that's basically a general overview of negative pressure dressing. For more details, feel free to give me a call, 317-563-2582. Thanks.